Well, the process of bhakti yoga is very old. We could say timeless, ancient. According to the tradition itself, it is in fact timeless. There was no, time when this bhakti yoga came into existence. It was taught by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, which, from the historical perspective, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken about 5,000 years ago. But the process itself of bhakti yoga is connected to what's known as Sanatan Dharma. And Sanatan means eternal. Dharma is a word that a lot of people are familiar with, but may not necessarily know the greater meaning of Dharma. A lot of time it's translated as duty, which is okay, but it also means essence. And essence, or what that means by essence is, it's like the quality of something that can't be taken away. Like the essence of sugar is that it's sweet. If it's not sweet, it's not sugar. Or the essence of water is that it's wet, or it's liquid, if it's not liquid, it's not water. It may change due to the environmental circumstances. Water, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's a gas, but in its natural state, it's liquid. In the same way, the soul has a natural state, or an essence. And due to the environmental circumstances, it may change to one thing or another, but eternally the soul is situated in service. That's what the soul is meant for. That's what it's supposed to do. So this Sanatan Dharma is the eternal essence, or really the eternal religion, or the eternal engagement of the soul. Just what's the word? Linguistically, this word eternal means there wasn't a time when it began. There won't be a time when it ends. It's just appropriate or pertinent. It applies to all times and places. So bhakti yoga is the same way. It's this process, this eternal process by which we can connect with God. Yoga means union, or to connect. And bhakti is devotion, or devotional service. So it's this process of devotion, service in devotion, or selfless loving service that we can use to connect to God. Now, historically speaking, this chanting of Hare Krishna, it's also in the ancient Vedic literatures, and which go back many thousands of years. But historically speaking, it was sort of revived or established more prominently in the spiritual traditions of India about 500, 550 years ago by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this was his process, to have people chanting, one congregationally, just together, but then also in public. That they would go out and chant these names, in particular this Hare Krishna Mahamantra that we chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So they would go out and chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra and try to spread this love of God. More recently, the chanting has come to the West, I guess about a little over 30 years ago, when A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, came to the United States from India on the order of his guru, his spiritual teacher, his mentor or guide, to spread this chanting of Hare Krishna all over the world. And so that's really the purpose or the goal of the Hare Krishna movement. It's funny, actually, this name, people call us the Hare Krishnas, is not, it's not like the textbook proper way to refer to someone who's in this particular tradition. The Sanskrit word is Vaishnava, one who worships Krishna or Vishnu. In particular, we're Gaudiya Vaishnava, so there's a particular lineage that we belong to. But people have taken to calling us Hare Krishnas because we go out in the street and we chant Hare Krishna. And while it's not something that it's not a name that we've self-applied, still it's something that we're glad to accept because that's the process, is to chant Hare Krishna. So we're happy to be known that way. And hopefully we can actually live up to that name and continue to chant on the streets and make people more aware of the chanting of Hare Krishna in whatever way it may be. Whether it's, Harinam or speaking with people one-on-one or, any other way that we have to spread this chanting. We go out on Harinam because there's benefit. There's benefit for us, and there's benefit for the people that hear us and see us. It may not be even perceptible, even to us, those of us that are going out on Harinam. It could just be a good time, that we're enjoying chanting, we're enjoying being with each other, spending some time in the Lord's service, and not really see the immediate benefit. But over the last month or 2 months that we've been going out on Harinam, we've actually been attracting people to come to the temple and to find out a little bit more about Krishna consciousness. This is what we have to offer. The Hare Krishna movement, what we have to offer is the chanting of God's names. And people are not so inclined to come to the temple to have the experience if they don't know anything about us. So we go out and bring the experience to them. And I'm sure a lot of people kind of think that we're crazy or eccentric or, not even think about it really, just sort of see us there and keep walking. But it's the people that do notice us, or the people that are affected, that really make it worthwhile. For me, I just like seeing people smile. I like seeing people. You can tell that they're appreciating the Harinam. It may not change their life that they're aware of, or that we're aware of, but there's some positive effect because it brightens their day, if nothing else. What's really nice is the people that have seen devotees out on Harinam before. They know a little bit about Krishna consciousness, and they appreciate enough to say, something like, "Oh, we haven't seen you guys in a long time. Where have you been?" Or, "We're really glad you're out here." Or there was one guy that we saw several weeks ago who he was basically thanking us. That there's a lot of negative energy, sort of a lot of negative things going on in the world, and he was just appreciating the fact that we were doing something positive, that we were trying to spread some, as he said, positive energy. So there's that too. But chanting in public, trying to really propagate or to spread God's names, is the most rapid means of making spiritual progress for us and for also the people that are hearing us, that are experiencing the Harinam. Well, if you want to accomplish anything, there has to be some element of sacrifice. And I mean, it's austere, but it's really not that bad. I mean, it's cold in Boston, but really once you start chanting, you really forget about it. You forget that it's cold, or that, when I first went out on Harinam, it was, people are going to be looking at me, wearing this dhoti, chanting in public. It's strange, So there's an austerity there too. But once you start chanting and you really absorb yourself in chanting, if you're enthusiastic about it, then you completely forget and you're just chanting. That's the only thing that you're really thinking about. Krishna says, sacrifice for Vishnu must be performed in Bhagavad Gita. And he also says, any endeavor, in this, if you want happiness or you want to achieve any sort of material endeavor, or any endeavor whatsoever, that there has to be some element of austerity or sacrifice. And really what austerity or sacrifice means is accepting some inconvenience for the pleasure of someone else. So we have faith that Krishna, that God is pleased by performing this sacrifice. We're giving up a little bodily comfort, accepting a little inconvenience in order to spread this chanting of Hare Krishna. And if, we have to stand out in the cold for 2 hours on a Sunday once a week, it's not a really big deal. It's not such a sacrifice. The clothes is not so important, and it may even, there's two things. On one hand, it may be too much of a distraction, in a certain sense. What I'm saying is, there may be, if we had a Harinam party that went out, and we were all just dressed nicely in regular non-devotional clothes, and we're chanting, it's not that that Harinam party is going to be any less effective than one that's wearing devotional clothing. It's really not. It's more like a detail than an essential point. I dress this way because I'm a representative of the temple, so I feel like I'm representing Krishna. This is a service that I'm doing for Krishna, and as someone who's sort of in a position of authority in the temple, I feel like it's important for me to represent that, like a priest or a monk would go out, wearing a certain outfit, at least generally they do. In the same way, I feel like as a representative of the temple, I should look a certain way. So, wearing tilak, wearing the dhoti. Some people may be turned off by it, but it's such a small thing. It's kind of it would be a silly thing to sort of turn someone off from a philosophy or way of life that someone dresses a little bit differently or looks a little bit differently than other people. It's such an external thing that it's not. I really don't see it as important in every sense. People may object to the fact that we're just out there, that we're quote unquote proselytizing for some religion, trying to spread some religion or convert people to this strange way of life. But when we all feel that we've gotten something from this process of Krishna consciousness, and there is something laudable in being able to, really have the guts, have the courage to go out and to tell other people about that you found some value in something. We certainly are not trying to convert people in the sense that we want them to give up their way of life and give up their religion and, walk away from everything and join this strange foreign thing that they're not familiar with, or that's, may not seem like it's a part of their culture or not relevant to their culture. But really, we're just, it's really about the chanting of Hare Krishna. And anyone can do it in any time, in any situation, regardless of what their affiliation is, spiritual or religious, national, local, familial, whatever. It doesn't matter who you are or what your situation is. You can still chant Hare Krishna. There are non-sectarian names for God. So if you believe in God, if you want to connect with Him, if you want to pray for His mercy, for His protection, if you want to be engaged in His service, to learn more about Him, to learn to love Him, if any of these things are important to you, no matter who or what you think God is, then the chanting of Hare Krishna will help you to do that. Yeah, the chanting of Hare Krishna can be done anywhere, in any circumstance, any time or place, walking down the street, on the subway, in bed, in the shower, at work, at school, in the temple, outside of the temple. It really makes no difference. There are places that are designated for different purposes. So the temple exists to facilitate people in spiritual life. But we're certainly not the sort of religion that believes that spiritual life should only happen one day a week in this particular place, and the rest of the week you do whatever and don't think about religion or spiritual life. This process should be going on all the time. In fact, we would like to come to the point of chanting Hare Krishna constantly, which doesn't necessarily mean sitting under a tree in the middle of the forest like an ascetic or a sage chanting Hare Krishna constantly, but that this holy name should be constantly with us, that we should either be chanting it audibly or inaudibly or thinking of chanting it, or we should just have the consciousness of making that connection with Krishna. Because that's really what chanting is all about, is making that personal connection or communicating with Krishna. And the more we chant, the more we'll come to that realization or that state of mind, state of being, and then we'll be able to do it independently of chanting. That we'll just always be thinking of Krishna. Am I doing this for Krishna? Am I doing this for myself? What can I do for Krishna? How can I improve my service? How can I think more of Krishna? How can I connect this activity to Krishna?